Just tell everybody how we made this happen today. How did we schedule this?
Weege was hiding in the bushes, and then we went around one of the many lakes around here, and he jumped out at us.
Pretty much.
No, we were on a road bike ride, me, Chase, Christian, and Adam, and all of a sudden this guy, he's running. You know, Weege did a 2-a-day today anyways.
Oh, I did? That's right. Yes.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
he had already ran this morning, and came around this turn, and I'm like, who's this guy with the Racer X shirt? And sure enough, it's Weege. So
yeah.
I told him, like, hey, we're going to do a run later, you know, Ken and I said, and he's like, oh, so we're going to have to do 2-a-days today. So, no, so it worked out really good. So
it pays to stalk.
Yes.
I stalked the stars. It paid off.
Yeah, he picked the right road. He's like, there's got to be some, a group of motocross cyclists coming by here. So, and it ended up working out perfectly for you. Good strategy.
Yes, and that's how I ended up going running with Ken Roczen. See, I can't waste time on the road because time is money. Someone's paying for me to stay in hotels and have rental cars, so I have to get maximum content all the time. And we always get stuck in this dilemma when we're in Daytona. We cover the Ricky Carmichael Amateur Supercross at Daytona Sunday and Monday. Thursday, I have to be back at Daytona for the American Flat Track season opener. That leaves Tuesday and Wednesday to go stalk the riders of Florida at their tracks, at their houses, and try to bro down as much as I possibly can in a 48-hour span. We went to Alden Baker's Factory on Tuesday. No problem. Look for a podcast about that soon. But on Wednesday, I was scheduled for a ye old annual visit to Blake Baggett's El Chupacabra Ranch. But Baggett has a wrist injury. He wasn't available. And I realized on Wednesday morning, I was going to be in the same town that most of the riders are without any riders to actually talk to or interview. I had to take evasive action. Because I went to Ken Roczen's house to interview him last year at Daytona time, I knew where he lived. I knew there was a beautiful lake in front of his house. And I also know from Instagram that most of these riders go on road bike rides between, say, 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning. And if you live near a lake on a beautiful road, why would you not road bike there? So all I needed to do was be on that road around 8:30 in the morning on Wednesday, and I was bound to find some motocross guy in a cycling kit riding by. And that is exactly what happened. Suddenly, a guy says, hey, that's Weege, because I was wearing a Racer X shirt, and the rest is history. It was Adam Cianciarulo, Chase Sexton, Christian Craig, and their trainer, Blake Savage. And Blake also works for Ken and said that they would be doing a run at 1 in the afternoon. So if I wanted to get content, I was going to have to sack up and hope that I could run with an actual professional athlete and someone who trains a professional athlete. If I didn't keep up, I wasn't going to get good audio. Now that's some motivation. So enjoy this, episode 2 of the Racer X Exhaust podcast, brought to you by Yoshimura, Running with Ken Roczen. This is all brought to you by Yoshimura, the leader in 4-stroke performance for over 63 years, unsurpassed quality, service, and development. Yoshimura is the brand you want for your dirt bike, ATV, or street exhaust. Exhaust system so nice that if you look at the back of Ken Roczen's bike, it's on there twice. Check them out at yoshimura-rd.com. Let's go running. But first, the podcast song about podcasting. Podcast, 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 podcast. Out of breath from singing the song, out of breath from going on a run. Although I did get really lucky, here's the thing you have to understand. This was Ken Roczen's easy day. His trainer, Blake Savage, and the guy that oversees the training program, Peter Park, had prescribed this to be a light jog for Ken. They wanted him to keep his heart rate, if I remember the text right, somewhere around 145. Now, for me, I was probably going to be hitting 165, 170 to try to keep up. But Ken had already been in the gym for 2 hours earlier that morning. Blake Savage, the trainer, had already been on the road bike when I stalked those guys. So this was actually their second big workout of the day. But I learned a lot about how this whole program works. I've never understood where you have trainer after trainer saying, we don't do Rocky Balboa-style training all the time. You'd be surprised how mellow a lot of it is. I could never understand that. It always seems like if you're going to train hard, train hard all the time. That's the hardest training. That's how you get in the best shape. But as you'll hear revealed on this podcast, Blake will explain that you have to have days where you rest so you'll be 100% fit to come in and really crush it on another day. And it's easier to make gains by having a low day and then a hard day than it is by having multiple medium days like most of us do. And that's really the difference between someone like me who just tries to go running every once in a while without a plan and someone who's a professional athlete that has everything scheduled around making maximum gains in a minimal amount of time. Yes, I was able to keep up. We basically ran an 8.5-minute pace for 6 miles. I can do that. If it was anything but running, I'd be terrible. I suck on a bicycle. I absolutely suck on a dirt bike. And if it were Ken's hard day of running or even a medium day of running, I would have been smoked. Same thing if I tried to meet him in the gym and did some ski erg or rowing with him. I would have been done. So let's get into the run here, and then as this show evolves, I'll also talk more about Blake Savage, who I consider kind of the secret weapon right now of the motocross industry. There's a lot of trainers that are really well known, but Blake is right there in the trenches and brings a lot of experience because he's not only a trainer, but he was once a racer himself. Oh, and incidentally, his sister is engaged to Ken Roczen. So he's involved in a lot of ways. And by the way, if you get mad at me about the audio, remember, we were running. It's windy. There's also a lake just off to the side, so it's even worse.
Yeah, it's better to, it's much easier to suffer when you're fresher than when you're...
We can either go left here or left up there. Let's go straight.
Okay. So how's the, what's your situation now with the arm? Like, can you do more running? Is there anything else you can do? Can you swim?
I do. Like earlier this morning, I did cardio indoors. Stairmaster and bike.
Right.
And then run. A lot of gym.
There's enough gym stuff you can still do.
I'm actually able to do a shitload of
more right now.
Yeah, like I already do, but I'm gonna have such a big base.
Yeah. Because last year you couldn't do all this stuff.
Well, last year I could, but you have to also take some time off and.
Well, you knew last year you weren't trying to get back by May.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I couldn't, so I literally had to wait till January. So, but right now, I can do, especially that I'm not riding. I can do bigger workload.
Yeah.
And recover way better than when I'm riding. So I just train like I do a lot of volume because I'm able to.
Yeah.
So by the time I start running, my base is going to be so big, which it already is.
Yeah.
So then it's just seat time. Then I'll back down on other things, and I'll just put a little bit of extra riding in it than I normally would.
Yeah, well, you don't even need to, because by then the base is built up.
Yeah,
so back it off on that a little bit.
Working on myself and getting familiar with the bike. I think that'll come back so quick, because I was only off for, a couple months rather than 9 last time.
Yeah.
When you're fatigued on running or cycling versus being on a motorcycle is completely different.
Yeah.
You can be really tired and still put in your run and your bicycle, but if you're fatigued on a supercross track, your day is kind of shit.
Plus, the injury risk is so high.
Sure. Well, also, I've heard you have to account for when you're riding on a track, you're going to have those oh shit moments that are just like adrenaline, stress, heart rate spike that you're not going to get on a jog because we can't hurt ourselves.
No.
So you've got to somehow acquire or account for that.
Yeah.
Like that's a big load.
You got to be able to react quick too, and when you're fatigued, your response, everything is just a little bit off, a little more slow.
Right.
When you're on a road bike, you can be super fatigued and actually still push through it.
And also outdoors is a bit different. A little more forgiving.
Yeah.
Outdoor track, you can roll, you can ease it up a little bit,
right,
and still get in your riding. Where in Supercross, you have to be so sharp.
Oh yeah, you make one mistake, there's another jump coming soon.
You over jump something, you come up short, or you do something in the woods.
You just have to be pretty sharp.
Yeah, that's why I think people get carried away and they just talk about fitness all the time, and I'm like, it's really it's a skills competition.
Yeah.
The fitness is just part of it.
You get a majority of your fitness on the motorcycle too.
Yeah. Like if you're a bicycle racer, the entire race is basically who's fittest, right?
That's
not who's the most skilled bicycle rider.
36 minutes. Should we just run by Adams again?
Yeah. We'll go.
Just double it up, basically. So this is what you're able to do. You're still on a full program, even though you're not on a motorcycle right now.
Correct.
Or even more of a program.
More, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just able to do these longer days, more volume than I normally would.
Yeah.
Especially more so throughout the season because we are riding and racing.
Yeah.
But the riding is such high intensity. Yeah, it's a bit shorter, but you tap into a whole nother spot, you know, in your nervous system and everything. So right now, with the amount of work that I'm doing,
yeah,
I'm actually almost surprised I recover as well as I do, because I'm going on to my 3rd week of training pretty hard, especially after the injury.
Yep.
So I've been feeling really, really well, and I put in a lot of work, and yeah, I wake up the next day and I recover really well. I feel like nothing happened. Though sometimes you'll get sore, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't train for 2 weeks, and then you start in the gym again, you will get sore.
Right.
And especially the amount that I've been running.
Right.
You'll get sore in the beginning, but all in all, honestly, it'd be freaking boring. If the 2 weeks that I had off,
you were bored?
I was just, like, I'm just grouchy.
Really?
Now I have something to do, so instead of, you know, laying on the couch and not knowing what to do with myself, I work out in the gym.
So you like training? You're at that point?
Oh, yeah.
You don't, if you weren't even doing it for a living, at this point...
100%. I've always been an athletic person. So,
I see.
I enjoy it. Like, especially running at the moment.
Yep.
That's my jam right now.
Yeah, I'm shocked to see that as part of the program. I feel like a lot of riders, Blake, you would know, like a lot of riders, they don't do it. But they got knee problems, ankle problems, I guess everything else. Is that a factor?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is, but for Ken, you know, back when he was racing GPs, this was normal for him. He barely even touched a bicycle, so
yeah.
This is kind of like picking up where he left off back in the day.
Yeah, so you didn't find it
it's just hard in Europe, right? It's so cold, and
okay.
It's almost impossible to cycle unless you go indoors, which I did. It was always in combination with rowing, cycling, and running. Mainly running, though, and rowing.
So you'll run in the cold more willingly than you'll run or cycle.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because cycling is a whole nother speed. Plus, icy roads and all that.
That's
stuff.
right. That's right.
It's way more uncomfortable. And not that I don't. It's a different uncomfortable, right? Being uncomfortable cold, well, it's nothing really to do with tapping into fitness. But when you're uncomfortable hot, for example, it helps your fitness out, and it's way gnarlier. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, cold doesn't. It just sucks.
It's just it sucks. It's not like it's hard. The workout's hard, but you're just miserable.
Yeah, so I'm lucky here where it's probably a little bit cooler than usual.
Yes.
Yeah. Breezier
this is
than
the
usual.
coolest time. Like, last week was cool. The week before, it was 90 degrees and 60% humidity.
Yeah, see you later. Enjoy your run, boys. Yeah. And this is your easy day.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've had one. You said you did 11 miles right before Daytona.
Yeah.
That's gnarly.
Yeah, Friday before Daytona we
ran 9 on Monday, right? Or 8.5?
Yeah.
Or Tuesday, whatever it was.
Pretty easy, but we have our hard days too, where we run like, you know, a higher heart rate, higher intensity. Just balance it out with the easy runs too.
Now here's where I point out that Kenny did a 5K over the weekend, and he said he was running 6:10 miles. We were running a little over 8.5, so he can go a lot faster. But it is rare to find a motocrosser who runs at all. Because of the pounding they're already putting their bodies through, usually they'll do cycling or gym work because you don't want that hard impact on your knees, your back, and everything else. And if you remember back to Hangtown a couple of years ago when Kenny came in with a back injury and struggled big time, well, yeah, that stress fracture in his back is still there. So he's got to account for that, but he likes running so much that he doesn't let it stop him. Oh, and sorry, we actually hit some sandy trails and had to run through some brush at this point, and things get kind of loud. Or maybe we're just running through candy wrappers as a reward for running 6 miles.
But you don't have any, like, dude, it kills my knees, previous injuries, anything like that. You're pretty good.
No, but remember, like we talked about my lower back.
The lower back, yeah.
It's all how you can manage. You know, we do so much. Besides running, like I have a full-time therapist,
right?
And I just don't like. I'm not going the easy route like a lot of other riders do, just because this was bugging me. Well, there's a way you can fix that with body work and still be able to run. I used to run 3 miles, 4 miles, and my lower back would be killing me with that injury that I have.
Yeah.
And that I still have.
55
but
minutes.
I've just managed to get that under control.
Average pace.
And I'm able to do this because I also love running, so I didn't just sit back and be like, oh, well, I can't run anymore.
Give it up.
Quit, yeah.
Give it up. Yeah. Do you still, the cycling, once your hands better and all that, that's all part of it, though. You're doing all that stuff, right?
It's all about mixing it up, balance.
Yeah, it's good to be a well-rounded athlete and just be able to do everything, swim, bike, run, skier, grower, anything you can kind of get your hands on that makes you more diverse with everything.
And not bored.
And you don't get burnt out that way. It's always pretty fun. We can switch it up day to day on what we're doing.
Yep. Do people around here know, like there's what, 20 riders live around here?
Approximately, yeah.
Are people aware of that? Like they see guys on cycles or road runs or?
More and more.
Yeah.
Especially, right, because sometimes people ask you like, oh, what do you do and whatnot? So we say, oh, I race dirt bikes. Oh yeah, I see a lot of people around here now.
But they don't really know what the level is, probably.
Yeah, the Fox t-shirt done.
Nicely done.
Yeah, how about that? Kenny was actually getting some things done to his house, and one of the repair guys was running a Fox t-shirt, so Kenny was pumped on that. And at some point during the run, we had mentioned the word pizza, and then Kenny said, I'm hungry as shit right now. And then as soon as we were back at the house after getting through this little trail that connected to his yard, he went inside maybe to have a pizza. But this was my chance to talk to this secret weapon, Blake Savage. Again, a lot of trainers in this industry, well known. Back in the day, you had Jeff Spencer. He was the trainer for pretty much everyone. I'm not quite sure how that worked. It was like every rider that was battling had the same trainer, regardless of team. Jeremy McGrath once got in great shape with Jeff Semix, who's a former national champion in his own right, and then McGrath went on to become a supercross champion, turned into a motocross champion with that fitness. And then we know for sure that Alden Baker and Ricky Carmichael changed the game in the early 2000s, and Alden's still going now. And for some reason, there's this dominance of South Africans right now in the training game between Alden, Tyler Rattray, Gareth Swanepoel, and Johnny Louch, who are all South Africans who had really no personal connection before this. I'd say 75% of the riders on the gate are trained by South Africans, which leaves a small group that is actually trained by this guy, Blake Savage. Now, I'll just explain this situation. So Peter Park is a high-end trainer out in Northern California. He worked with Chad Reed for a while when Chad Reed had that phenomenal career comeback with 2-2 Motorsports. So Chad was with him for several years. Then Ken Roczen hooked up with him when Roczen left Alden Baker. But Park, you've probably never seen him. You've probably never heard his voice. You maybe have never even heard Peter Park's name. He is the trainer for Ken Roczen and Adam Cianciarulo, and I've talked to Adam a lot about this, and Ken. They love working with the guy. A lot of focus on strength, on posture, and I think Ken will tell you he gets to eat a lot more of what he wants, which he's very vocal he could not do working with Alden. Ken even told me during this run that, he's the kind of guy that's going to do exactly what his trainer says. So even if he's feeling bad and feeling tired, if the trainer pushes him, he's going to do it. Ken believes that a lot of trainers know their job is to push their athletes and try to get more out of them. But Ken says he doesn't need to be pushed. He'll push too hard. If he's already at his limit, he's going as hard as he can, and then you tell him he's going to have to go even harder. Now he's going beyond his level and completely wearing himself down. And he said actually in the summer of 2014, when he first won the 450 motocross title, he was totally burnt out and spent at the end of the year and nearly ended up losing that title because Ryan Dungey put in a really strong charge late. So he was looking for a different scenario, and he gets it by working with Blake. Now, Peter Park gives the plan, and then it's up to Blake to just make sure and communicate what that plan is. He's not waking Ken up every day and forcing him to go to the gym or forcing him to go on these runs. But one of the best tools in a trainer's program is to have someone with the athlete all the time so they can tell if the athlete's feeling good or bad or needs to do less or more. And also because Blake and Ken are similar age and basically in similar fitness levels, Blake can kind of almost tell from what he's feeling how Ken is feeling. Now, one other thing to make this go completely and totally full circle, like multiple laps. So Ken Roczen's fiance now, Courtney, at one time was doing PR for Chad Reed because she worked with Wasserman Media Group, was Chad Reed's agent. Blake Savage is her brother. And then Peter Park once trained Reed, and now he trains Ken. I can barely even keep up with all those machinations. Safe to say that Ken is basically training alongside his brother-in-law. Gets along with his brother-in-law a lot better than most of us do. Now, at first, Blake was just carrying out the plan set forth by Peter Park. But then Cole Seeley obviously got tight with Roczen when they were Honda teammates. Christian Craig's tight with Seeley. Now they're Honda guys. Chase Sexton was tight with Craig. So then they end up kind of on the Roczen program, which means they're working with Blake Savage, and eventually all three of them just went to Blake and said, well, we just want you to be our trainer. So they're not technically on the Peter Park program. They're just on the Blake Savage program. But essentially you get 5 riders, Cianciarulo, Roczen, Craig, Sexton, Seeley, that are all working together as one training unit, which really seems to be the trend in the sport these days, riders working together. And that's why I saw those 3 guys, Craig, Sexton, and AC, on a road bike ride with Savage in the morning, and that's why I saw Roczen with Savage in the afternoon. Roczen can't ride the road bike right now because of his hand injury, and Cole Seeley, get well soon, is still recovering from his big crash in Tampa. So we'll get back to this conversation in a minute, but I just want to remind you once again, a shout out to Yoshimura, who was the big backer of this podcast from day one. They basically are the ones that motivated me to actually figure out the technology to do it. 4-stroke performance leader for over 63 years, unsurpassed quality, service, and development. Yoshimura, the brand you want for your dirt bike, ATV, or street exhaust. Yoshimura-rd.com. The pipe's so nice that Chase Sexton, Christian Craig, Cole Seeley, Ken Roczen, well, they've got 2 of those exhaust pipes hanging out of the back of their bikes. Also, RacerXbrand.com. We've got an all-new line of clothing and hats and backpacks and all kinds of accessories. Our spring line has just hit. Spend $40 and get free shipping. Go to RacerXbrand.com and show your RacerX colors. Moto every day over there. And finally, we just wrapped up another issue of RacerX Illustrated. I believe this is volume 21. Yes, 21 years of the magazine. Issue number 6 out of the 21st year. I had multiple stories in there. I wrote a story about the American Flat Track opener, which happened right after this run with Roczen. Wrote another story about how the amateur supercross scene worked this year. Fell brought that program back. Those are stories exclusive to the magazine. Davey Coombs wrote a story in there about where everyone lives in Florida and the whole evolution of riders moving to the Sunshine State, and now Daytona becoming everyone's home race, and a lot of other inside stuff. We even kind of mapped out where some of the tracks in Florida are. And again, all this information is only in the pages of RacerX Illustrated. We're not showing any of that online. So subscribe to the magazine now. You can get a digital subscription for, I think, $10. You can get the print magazine for about $20, or you can get both together as well. So no excuse not to get all the info right there at RacerX. We work really hard on that. So please keep the lights on in the building so I can keep doing these podcasts. And now, back to more with Blake Savage.
You got to go really easy on those easy days. And you don't want to just get mixed in the middle, because that's when you're like, then your good days aren't as good.
So you have, how do you know though? How do you know like where his level is, or where the level is of like, okay, this is where we need to be today because of what we did yesterday? How do you calculate that?
You almost get to a point, well, him and I, we're like kind of on, you could say we're both on the same fitness level, so it's not a problem. It's not like his heart rate's going to be, way higher, or my heart rate's going to be way higher, so it works out really good. But it almost becomes, like on the bicycle or running, it almost becomes obnoxious how slow you're going. You're like,
really?
I want to go
the slow days?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You're like, I really, like, I could pick it up a notch right now. It's harder to go slower than it is to go
So it's not because from the day before you're so tired that you can't. Like, you could go hard the day after. It's not the right choice at that time.
Yeah, you definitely want to think a couple days down the road, like, okay, Thursday and Saturday are going to be our hard days. That's when we really need to put in the hard work. So if we got to go easy these days, because if we go, even a little bit over that, then we're not going to be to our full fitness potential, and we're not going to be sharp on Thursday and Saturday.
On the day you really need
it.
Yeah.
That's when you really start to make the gains. If, let's say like, 1 through 5 scale, if you're always training in that 3, then you're never going to be like, get to that 5 or 4. So then you train in like a, like out of 1 or a 2, and you create that aerobic base.
Yeah.
And then on those hard days, you just kind of, you throttle it up, and you really put in the intensity and the hard work.
Aha. Yes, that's what I've noticed it myself. I'm talking like over the last 8 years. It never varies. I do basically the same general run. It's the same general pace. It never gets better or worse. Mm-hmm. So the only way to really fix that is to go big
Yes.
Just don't keep doing the same 5 mile, 8 minutes pace.
Yeah. And
I see.
Yep. And you just maintain on your easy days. And there's definitely a purpose for those days.
Right.
But the hard days are really where you're going to make you like, for example, doing some really hard hill sprints or some flat out intervals.
Right.
And those are the really hard days.
They suck.
Yeah. So, it's just all, prioritizing your workouts and, and making, I guess, training in blocks too, and knowing that we're going to make our gains here for when we go racing. So.
And people probably people might not know, you raced for a long time yourself.
Yep.
I remember on the podium at Loretta's. Did you win a Works race or come close? Like, you battled in Works, right?
Yeah. I started real young.
Yeah.
Racing Works and off-road. I raced on the Factory Suzuki team. And then after that team kind of went away. That support went away. And I went back to motocross. And then it took me about a year until I started getting pretty successful again.
Right.
And then I went to Loretta's for the first time in my amateur career, and I remember at Loretta's you actually nicknamed me Macho Man.
Yeah, Macho Man.
Yeah,
Macho Man Blake Savage. That's right.
So then that kind of stuck for a while, and I still hear it once in a while.
But you did good.
I did really good, actually. I surprised myself. I was really nervous. I was like, oh man, the prestigious Loretta Lynn's. Like,
Had you even raced much moto at all?
Only maybe like a year to year and a half.
Really?
Yeah, of motocross after off-road. And I created some bad habits actually racing off-road. I was, more of the endurance guy, not the lightning speed guy.
Yes.
So I really had to like focus on that and switch my habits. But when I went to Loretta's, I got 2 second place overalls in the 450B and 250B mod classes.
Right.
And 2 fourths, 2 thirds, 2 seconds. So I was pretty successful there, and then I was fairly successful the following year after that. But I actually did really good at a lot of the amateur races as a pro. Mm-hmm. So going in, that's just what I want to do. I was like, I'm gonna become a motocrosser, no more off-road.
Right.
And the support wasn't there that I was expecting. I'm like, I'm doing really good. I'm winning amateur races. I'm getting second at Loretta's. Like,
and you probably would have gotten so much and you would have got so much better because you were really new to it still.
I was, but I kind of got the story a lot that I'm at the tail end of my amateur career, and we like to find the super mini riders and the 85 riders that we like to groom, and I'm kind of like the old man in the amateur class now, so we don't want nothing to do with you anymore. And I gave it a shot. A little bit of professional racing as a privateer. And
did you do Canada?
I did race Canada, and I got some podiums there, and I was fairly successful there. But I was on some kind of half-assed teams there, and I've just really learned in this sport you can't do it on your own. You can't, and not only like if someone gave you the proper bike to go out and race, you could still only go so far with that. It really takes the team and the staff behind the bike and behind the rider to really be successful, and I just never had that. So I just decided, and then I came to realize I was training a lot with Ken, and he's like, you want to make this a full-time deal, training with me, and I said, heck yeah, and I was still kind of chasing the dream a little bit then, and I found myself enjoying training with him more than I was actually loading up my bike and going and riding Supercross. I was like, dude, I'm not enjoying this anymore. So I'm just gonna put all my focus into training with Ken and get some education on training, and then it kind of took off from there, and I had people kind of knocking on my door, and now I'm working with multiple athletes and still working with Ken as well. So it's been a kind of a cool story.
You said you always liked the training part though, like you were into it even before you knew it was going to be a job.
And I just love the preparation it takes to go racing and go training. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love lining up. That's the one thing I miss more than anything is the butterflies before you go race. That's one thing that I found myself, I've never actually looked back and been like, I miss racing, but that's the one thing that I do miss is lining up, and even in the training days when you're thinking about that guy that you want to beat on the weekend, and you just, it kind of feeds your motivation just a little bit more. You're on the road bike or you're on your drive to the track and you're just thinking of God, I want to beat all these guys so bad. That's the one thing I kind of miss. And so now I found myself that I got to be competitive with something. So now I'm finding little things like mountain bike races and half Ironmans and triathlons and running races, and I want to qualify to race the Boston Marathon and just things like that. I got to challenge myself. That's the main thing that I miss.
When are we going to see hey, Blake's getting ready for Loretta's, man. He's going to do 25 plus or 30 plus. When is that happening?
I've already gotten that question before.
Of course.
A couple times.
It's the cool thing to do, man. They all do it.
Yeah. There's a lot of good guys, too. I would have to really prepare.
I know. Yeah.
And I haven't been on a bike since October. And I am 25 now. So it's perfect for me to go race the 25 plus class.
Yes.
And, realistically, I could see myself actually going back to Loretta's and racing. I think it would be a lot of fun, but man, is it a lot of work.
Yes. And would you actually be able to do it and do what your real job here, or is it going to kind of be a compromise?
I would actually, because I would actually be able to prepare pretty well, just because of the facility that we have and the training program and everything. I would actually be going back to Loretta's more prepared than I did as an amateur.
Probably. Now, as our conversation meandered, I eventually got onto one of my favorite topics, which is not spending money. One of the strange things about professional athletics is that most of the time the athletes are paying for a lot of their own training and their own trainers, their own training equipment. In NBA circles, it's rumored that LeBron James spends $1 million a year of his own money on training and nutrition and fitness. And by the way, the Cleveland Cavaliers have their own fitness unit that he would then stack on top of that. So more than $1 million a year is being spent to keep LeBron James healthy. And that is absolutely a massive cost in motocross and supercross. The riders are paying to use places like Baker's Factory, or in the case of Roczen and these riders, what is now called the Moto Sandbox. They have to pay their trainers. They have to buy gym equipment. And the one that is really a dagger in my heart, they have to spend money on food. You cannot subsist on ramen noodles like I did in college or today and be a professional athlete. Well, yeah, and what I've talked to many trainers about this, Kenny doesn't seem to have a problem with it. The riders have to spend. At their level, they have to invest. No one's paying them to pay their trainer or to eat right, which costs more than eating junk food, which is cheap. They have to invest to do it right.
Properly. Equipment. Yep. He just invested in a gym. And then, rental houses to go spend, weeks or months for training camp.
That's right.
And, thankfully he gets support from Canyon for bicycles, but that's a huge expense. That's like a $10,000 expense that, your average guy would have to pay. So, no, huge investments. I see it all the time on his end, but it all pays off in the end. I'm telling you. If he half-assed it, he wouldn't be the guy who he is.
The breakdown is, so it's like there's Peter Park, and then are you kind of like carrying out the plan that he puts together, or do you guys work together to come up with a plan? How does that all work?
Yeah, so at first it started as, I was Ken's full-time training partner, and I was almost the hands-on guy for Peter. Peter lives in Santa Barbara, and he's very educated. He used to work with Chad and a couple other guys back in the day, but now,
and other athletes in other sports than just moto, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, he works with movie stars, athletes, you name it. He can work with anyone really. So he educated me big time along the way as I was being the hands-on guy with Ken. And then I kind of created this this knowledge and this foundation off of him. Right. Even did some schooling on my own, got some certifications. And so then I had, a few guys calling me up saying, hey, I want in on this kind of thing. And I, obviously I ran it through Ken, and you really want to make sure you have a close group of guys. So I'm not just going to work with just anyone. So now, obviously Adam is one of Peter's guys too. I consider it one big family, one big team of guys, but Ken and Adam are specifically Peter's guys.
Right.
And but I work with them when I'm in Florida, when I'm in California, kind of thing. So, I do get a lot of time with them, but my own personal guys are Chase Sexton, Christian Craig, and Cole Seeley.
I see.
So, but we're all one big team, really. I don't even really look at them, as his and mine kind of thing. We're just all one big team.
Peter doesn't say, "Oh, you don't tell these three guys this secret that I got. That's only for Adam."
Definitely not. Yeah. No, we're all in this together.
Right.
We all share stuff, and we bounce stuff off of each other. And Peter's the one guy I talk to more than anyone. I talk to him more than my own girlfriend. So,
Does she know this?
Yes.
Okay.
She's aware.
Okay. All right.
She's like, "Oh gosh, Peter's calling. You're going to be on the phone for 2 hours."
There you go.
Yeah. So, it is pretty funny, but him and I get along so well, and I'm actually going down there to see him soon. And I know beyond this, I didn't even set out to be like a motocross trainer. That's not what I wanted to do. That's not. But they kind of came knocking on my door, and
sure,
I really want to work with your general population or maybe even
movie stars.
That would be fantastic.
Of course.
Some amazing other athletes in other sports.
Yep.
And I have a pretty good knowledge to do so. But this is where I'm at right now, is working with motocross athletes, and I'm loving it. We have a really good, close team. So I can't complain at all.
Ken puts it out there that he eats what he likes to eat. I'm sure there's some restrictions in general. He's smart about it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But he likes to throw it out there.
Yeah.
So are you big on that side too? Does the nutrition side all fit in?
Yeah.
With your knowledge base?
Someone like Ken, you really, I mean, it's super important to be well-rounded on the eating nutrition side.
Right.
And more than ever, I feel like Ken is better than what he has ever been, because you don't put the pressure on him to eat good. It's like telling a kid he can't do something, and then he's going to do it anyways, or sneak around it,
Yeah.
And he puts in the hard work, and he knows that he's got to eat good, but he also likes to treat himself too. But
there are some good choices. He's not, everything isn't just a joke. Like, he's eating good most of the time.
No, majority of the time for sure. Yeah,
exactly.
And it's definitely one of those things where, like I said, if he's like too strict, he's like that. He's that guy. If you're too strict, it's gonna go the other way,
right.
and he's not gonna perform as good. So he balances out pretty well. But someone maybe like Ryan Dungey, let's say, if he cheats, he's gonna let it get to his head a little bit.
Okay.
So there's that guy too.
I see.
So as long as you can cheat, as long as you don't let it get to your head and stuff. So
everybody gets confidence from different things.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. You can't be too rigid on that stuff. And I just learned, like, you educate the guys and you just check in on them, like, how's this going? And they do pretty good on their own. I'm more focused on, like, making sure they're hydrated, making sure you're fueling at the race and that kind of thing. But you can't be a babysitter either.
I had a lot of conversations here, obviously, with Blake and also with Alden Baker the previous day. And that's the one thing that I believe I learned from talking to these trainers and seeing how the day worked for their riders. It seems like once you have a trainer who's there with you all the time, work ethic is no longer even in question, or heart and determination. It's no longer a question. You have someone there just making you do it. So then you'll hear, well, this guy works really hard, this one rider. And then you'll hear another rider is a slacker. And then I say to myself, well, how's that possible? Aren't you there to stop that from happening? Aren't you basically making sure that everyone does the proper things? But as you find out, there are ways for riders to do basically whatever they want to do. The trainer can talk to them all they want, can yell at them all they want, can babysit them all they want. But ultimately, the riders can find their ways to take shortcuts. The trainer can tell you to eat right, but they can't make you actually do it. They can't actually shove good food in your mouth and burn all the bags of chips or get rid of all that pizza. So you really get an idea of who's committed. When you go over to Alden's side, you'll always hear epic stories of how hard Zach Osborne is willing to work and the full commitment to all facets of the program. What I kept hearing get brought up on this end, Chase Sexton. Maybe not a superstar yet, but over the last 2 years that he's been on the Geico Honda team, from a great amateur career now into the pros, every person I hear behind the scenes, from both his team people and then the riders that train with him, this dude is some combination of Rambo and Schwarzenegger in the 80s when it comes to physical fitness and strength. And Ken told me basically, once Chase Sexton puts the pieces of the puzzle together racing-wise, Everybody else is in big trouble. Here's more.
How about our other guys? Are they slackers? Are they Taco Tuesdaying up here? Is that allowed? Is that okay?
Well, man.
Are they all pretty good?
Honestly, like, I'll have Taco Tuesday with them once in a while.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
I went last night. I heard it was the place to be.
Yeah. So,
that's okay. That's all right. That's on the program.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like to put in a 90-10 kind of thing. Like,
what is this? What's
like
90-10?
90% of the time, you're good.
Oh, okay.
But you can slack 10%.
Okay.
And that's a pretty good ratio I've found. So they know that if they're good majority of the time, they'll be just fine.
And you're never really whipping on them. They're athletes. They're doing it right.
Yeah.
You're never coming in and be like, dude, you just ordered Domino's again. It doesn't get to that level.
No, I refuse to be a babysitter.
Okay.
But
do you even have to be? They're not that out of hand, are
no,
they?
definitely not.
Right.
The only one I would maybe be concerned with is Chase.
All right.
But that kid,
he's 18, right?
He lets the performance do the talking. I can't really give him too much shit.
Okay.
He's 18 years old and he's gonna slack. And I've actually went to to go get like an ice cream with him before, and he got the big one, of course.
Right.
He couldn't get the small, and he's like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna go big.
Okay.
So.
He's going 89-11.
Yes.
On his program. He's on the 89-11 program.
Yeah. So that's the only one that I would be maybe concerned with. But he does a good job for the most part.
Well, you said, but he's gnarly, though. Like, he's in killer shape.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a tremendous base. And I think the biggest thing with Chase is he's got a very good work ethic. If you give him two options, you can either go around this hill right here, or you can go over it. He's always going to choose to go over it.
Okay.
And, when I'm in Utah or California and he's here in Florida and I send him a gym workout, I'm never going to stress that he's going to go through with it. And, like if you put in there, like, in a gym workout, do 6 to 8 reps, he's always going to do 8 kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
So those are the guys that I really, really appreciate, is the guys that, fully, put in all the work. And that's the one thing I really love about Chase. All of them are hard workers, but there's something about Chase where he's the young one of the group too.
Yeah.
So he looks at Cole and Chase and Ken and Adam, and he's like, I'm going to be better than you guys.
Okay.
So I'm going to put in a ton of work.
Right.
For him, it's almost like pulling back the reins a little bit. Like, hey, you can't light the candle at both ends right now. You gotta, we're not even out of Supercross yet, and so we don't want you to peak yet.
How yoked could he be, though, if he wanted to be, though? He just went straight bench press buys.
Oh man, he puts on some muscle. Like sometimes I get a little concerned. Like, dude, you're putting on, like, I was giving him shit earlier because he's like 165 pounds right now, but he looks super lean and ripped. I'm like, dude, what are we gonna do here? You're on a 250 still. So,
Right.
I mean, he's a great kid. Good laughs.
Now, my last thing is, what do you think of my performance today, bro? I laid it down almost an hour.
I was very impressed.
All right, that's what we're going for.
So, no, and that's my honest opinion.
I'm only good at one thing. This is the only thing I'm good at.
Yeah.
So luckily you picked running today. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it worked out really good. At first I was like, how much do you run?
Yeah, you were quizzing.
What's your longest run and things like that. I didn't want to full kill you, but I
don't want to mess up your schedule today. It'd be like, now we got this dumb journalist with us and we got to go half pace.
No, and no, you hung perfect with us, and we actually talked the whole time too.
Yeah.
So that also showed another side of your fitness, that you can hang and talk. So you weren't just full gasping for air the whole time.
You know me, I'm going to talk, bro. I'm going to talk.
Yeah, of course.
I can't not.
I knew it was going to happen, too. I'm like, this is going to turn into a 1-hour interview right now.
It just did. Yes. So I helped you guys out. I got you a little, maybe 5 beats a minute higher.
Yeah.
By making you talk the whole time.
Definitely it was. And that was a good test, because today was I like to consider it, our easy days, to where you can sustain a pace where you can talk casually and you're not gasping for air. So that was a good gauge through the whole run. So it worked out perfectly for all of us.
Yeah, it did. It worked out perfectly. I managed to get content on a day I didn't think I was going to get any, and it's about as insider as I could possibly get. And I'm just very, very lucky that today was Ken Roczen's easy day. Hope you enjoyed the second real episode of the Racer X Exhaust podcast, brought to you by Yoshimura. We'll be back next week for more. think we'll have more insight from my trip down in Florida. Be sure to check out yoshimura-rd.com. Go to racerxbrand.com for our latest spring line of shirts. Remember, free shipping with over $40 worth of items. And check out the latest issue of Racer X Illustrated, which will be on newsstands, in mailboxes, or available via digital subscription quite shortly. That's racerxonline.com. For now, thanks for listening to the Racer X Exhaust Podcast by Yoshimura. Subscribe on iTunes. See you next week.